Hello, hello. It's a nice sunny day in June today for me. Hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about habits. Habits. It's an interesting topic. I think one of the experiences that I have that really drive home to me the power of habits is when I feel like I'm using my phone too much, which I feel that way pretty often. I'm like this close to getting a dumb phone. What I'll do from time to time is I'll uninstall an app from my phone. Often this is like a social media app like X or something like that. And I'll say, okay, I'm tired of using this app on my phone. I want to be more present in my life. Go ahead and uninstall the app. And then I find myself opening my phone and clicking where the app used to be with my thumb. And I only realize what I'm doing after I try to click the app and it doesn't open, right? So I try to click the app and it doesn't open, and only then am I aware that I was trying to click the app to begin with. Have you ever had this experience? And then I go, wait a minute, why am I opening this app? I just said I wanted to be more present. I uninstalled the app, and now here I am trying to open the app. And to me, that highlights sort of like the incredible aspect of habits, which is that they are often unconscious or subconscious, right? It's like my intention is to use my phone less, but I have this habit of using this particular app on my phone, and that habit is more powerful than, my one-off intention. And so, it's a little cliche, but people will say human beings are creatures of habit, and I know that to be true. And so, one of the lessons that I've learned in my life is that if you want to change your behavior, you need to consider your habits. And you need to approach your habits with the intention of designing a system, right? So you can't do this based on willpower alone. You can't do it through like, rah, rah, I'm just going to tough it out. You have to design a system that makes you more likely to succeed than to fail. And I'm going to tell you about the system that I use and where I learned it from in today's video. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Ryan Weiss. This is The Ryan Weiss Show. I'm doing a video series here called Lessons for My Kids, where I'm recording a weekly lesson that I think it's important for my kids to learn by the time they become adults. And I'm recording these lessons so that if something were to happen to me, they have a list of lessons, life lessons that their father thinks is important, taught by their father to them. And I'm publishing them because I think other people might find these lessons helpful or interesting as well, in addition to my kids. Excuse me just a moment. So, today's lesson is on the importance of habits. And the best book that I've read on habits is a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the primary lesson from Atomic Habits is that most of your life is not made out of decisions. It's made out of habitual behavior. It's habits running automatically. And so you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So if you think that changing your behavior or becoming successful is based off of willpower, you're wrong. Changing your habits and achieving your goals is based on engineering your life systems. I think it's interesting too, just to discuss briefly why humans are habit forming. and I think the lens that is helpful for me to frame this in is the lens of like evolutionary biology, right? So thinking and making decisions is cognitively expensive. It requires a lot of energy, and that energy requires resources. And so previously, when humans were hunter-gatherer or cavemen or whatever, resources were much more scarce than they are today, right? I always like to think of my body as being designed in a sort of a harsh environment, a resource-scarce environment. That's one of the reasons why people are inclined to get fat, right? Fat is the body's way of storing resources for future use. It doesn't serve us in resource-abundant environments, but we were, sort of forged in a resource-scarce environment. Same thing with your brain, right? So if you had to make every decision in your life consciously, and you weren't able to form habits that sort of switch some of those decisions to unconscious, you would be expending a lot more resources. So having the trait of forming habits is evolutionarily preferable to not forming habits, because it saves resources, and in a resource scarce environment, those that save resources succeed. I hope that makes sense. So that's sort of how I frame of like, oh, why do people form habits? The answer is because it saves resources, and that's valuable in a resource scarce environment. So James Clear wrote a book called Atomic Habits. It's a really excellent book. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. And some of the primary lessons that I have learned from that book are, number one, the habit loop. So James Clear presents a 4-step framework for how human behavior occurs. Number one is the cue. Number two is the craving. Number three is the response. And number four is the reward. And so if you look at any of those 4 parts, you can understand why you're doing something, and you can also understand why a habit has been formed. So let's go back to my phone as an example. For me, the cue to use my phone could be a couple different things, but often for me, it's going to the bathroom. Why the bathroom? I don't know. I guess because nobody disturbs me in the bathroom. It's kind of boring. I have like a minute or two that's quiet. So for me, a cue to use my phone is often going into the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and that's the cue, which develops the craving, which is I want to look at my phone. I'm kind of bored, or I usually look at my phone in the bathroom. So that creates the response, which is me taking out my phone and actually clicking on an app or opening up the web browser. And the reward is the dopamine that I get from the entertainment or from the social media or something like that, which then reinforces the whole loop. So next time I go to the bathroom, I'm more likely to go through that same cue, craving, response, reward pattern. You could also look at this with a bad habit like smoking cigarettes, or you could look at it as a good habit. So let's take a good habit. So for me, I work out when I get home. So the cue for me to work out is getting home from work. The craving that I feel is I want to look good, and then I also like to feel the endorphins after I work out. So the response that I have is to go and work out, and then the reward is the nice feeling, the endorphins that I have post-workout, and the feeling like I am doing something to keep myself healthy. So cue, craving, response, reward. Now, taking a look at each of those components, there are 4 things you can do to make a good habit easier, and there are 4 things you can do to make a bad habit harder. And so this is where you sort of get into engineering of the system. So let's say that there is a good habit that you want to build. So you can work on the cue, the craving, the response, or the reward. So number one, how do you improve the cue? Well, the answer is you make it obvious. You make the cue obvious. I think this will be helpful if we apply to a specific habit. Let's say you want to eat more salad, right? So if you wanted to create an obvious cue to eat a salad, what you could do to make it obvious is you could leave your salad bowl on the counter, and then whenever you go into the kitchen, you see your salad bowl, right? So the cue is obvious. Next, for the craving, what you can do for the craving is you make it attractive, right? So how do you make eating a salad attractive? Well, you could put up a reminder that says, here's my goal weight, and if I eat a salad every day, I know I'm going to achieve that goal weight. You could put up beautiful pictures of delicious salads, and so make like the actual idea of eating a salad more attractive. You could, I can't come up with any other ideas at this time of how to make eating a salad more attractive. But so for cue, you want to make it obvious. For the craving, you want to make it attractive. For the response, you want to make it easy. So you want to make it easy to eat a salad. Now, how do you make it easy to eat a salad? Well, the answer is, number one, have the ingredients readily available. Maybe you could even pre-prep some salads in your fridge. So put, some of the basic ingredients in the salads. Maybe pre-chop some of the vegetables that you like to have in salads. Maybe have delicious low-calorie salad dressings that you like to add to your salads. But you want to reduce any friction between you and getting a salad in your hands and eating it. That's how you make the response easy. And then finally, for the reward, make it satisfying. Now, how do you make eating a salad satisfying? That's a good question. I think, one of the ways is making it delicious, right? So doing a little bit of prep beforehand so that when you have the salad, it's good, right? Don't just eat like a bowl of spinach. That may not be very satisfying. You could also have like a little routine that you do after you eat a salad where you say something to yourself like, man, thanks for eating a salad. We are well on our way to our goal weight. Or thanks for eating a salad. We are well on our way to good health. So you do something to make it satisfying, and that's what you can do for the reward section. So cue, make it obvious. Craving, make it attractive. Response, make it easy. And reward, make it satisfying. Now, the powerful thing about this framework is that you can flip it on its inverse and do essentially the opposite for any bad habit that you want to stop. So let's use smoking. That's a classic bad habit. Less people are smoking now than ever, but some people still smoke. So let's run that through. So the cue. So if we want to make a habit easier to do, we make it obvious. If you want to make a bad habit harder, you hide your cues. So what's the cue to smoke? Maybe you see your cigarettes in your car or feel them in your pocket, or you see them in your backpack and you think, oh yeah, I want to smoke. That could be your cue. So what's the solution? Instead of making it obvious, make it hidden. Maybe put your cigarettes in like a little hidden pouch in your backpack. Or maybe you leave them in the trunk of your car, or maybe you leave them in the cabinet at home. You just make that cue less obvious, harder to see, and you're automatically on the way to reducing that habit. So make it invisible. Number two, make it unattractive. I think it might be Japan where they do this, but when you buy cigarettes in Japan or some country, I think it's an Asian country, they have these pictures of people suffering horrible diseases on the cartons, like lung cancer and emphysema and throat cancer. And so, you go to smoke a pack of cigarettes and you look at it and there's this guy with a hole in his throat where he has a stoma so that he can breathe. And that makes smoking less attractive. If you think about what smoking companies will do when they advertise their cigarettes too, right? You have like the Marlboro cowboy, right? Smoking's cool, I'm a cowboy, right? So they try to make it attractive. If you want to stop smoking, you do the opposite, you make it unattractive. So you could put pictures of sick people on your cigarettes. You could, one thing that I've seen some people do too is when you smoke, bring a tissue with you and then blow out through the tissue. And then you can look at the tissue and you can see that it's brown and black, and you can know that that's what you're doing to the inside of your lungs. So for the craving, make it unattractive. For the response, make it hard. So if you want to do a good habit, you make it easy. If you want to stop a bad habit, make it hard. So what you could do to make it hard? Some of the tools that I've seen is they sell these timed lock boxes where you can put your cigarettes in them, and then when you want to smoke, you have to type in a code, and then the box will have a 5 or 10 minute timer on it, and it won't unlock. It can't unlock prematurely. So you type in a code, then you are forced to wait 5 minutes. That makes it harder to smoke, that forced waiting time. And oftentimes, what's amazing is that time, forcing you to wait that time will make you feel like, you know what, I don't really want to smoke. If you can't satisfy the craving immediately and you put some distance between yourself and the reward, oftentimes that distance is enough to make you not want to smoke. So a lockbox is an example of something that would make it hard. And then finally, for the reward, right, we've got cue, craving, response, reward. For the reward, make it unsatisfying. So, with smoking, I'm not sure how you could do this. Maybe you could say, I only smoke if I do it outside without a coat on, right? So you can make it like less satisfying because you're cold while you smoke. Or you could make it so that whenever you smoke, you have to tell your accountability buddy, and then you sort of feel like a little bit of disappointment because you told them, yeah, I smoked, or maybe I smoked more than 3 cigarettes today or something like that. So this is how you design a system. You think about the cue, a system of building personal habits. You think about the cue, the craving, the response, the reward, and then you use tools to engineer each part of those. And again, if you want to create a good habit, what you do is you focus on making it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And if you want to stop a bad habit, you focus on making it invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying. And then, so that's habits in a nutshell. I have some other thoughts that I could add there. One other thought I'll just sneak into is this idea of identity. So when you're trying to build a good habit or stop a bad habit, don't think about like the trying or think about like creating the habit itself, but rather think about who your identity is. So I'm not trying to build the habit of running. I'm trying to become a runner, right? It's kind of a subtle difference. I'm not trying to stop the habit of smoking. I'm trying to be a non-smoker. And so there's really some treasure to be found in thinking about changing your identity rather than changing your habits. So I just would plant that seed there and have that be something that you consider. In your life, you will always be building habits. How you do one thing is often how you do most things. So that's why I encourage you to try your hardest at everything that you do, to think consciously about how you're doing something for the first time, and be conscious of the fact that you are a habitual being. And if you want to change your behavior, change your life, improve your life, you need to consciously think about what habits you're moving towards, and you need to consciously design your habits based on the cue, craving, response, reward framework. So, I hope that was helpful. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching. This is Ryan Weiss signing out.